school reopening plan. So Bob, take it away.
All right, very good. So the board, I'm going to share my screen for a PowerPoint presentation. So when I do that, I won't be able to see you or see things that, because I know the board may have questions, I will do the presentation in pieces, and then I'll come back, see if there's any questions, and then go back to the PowerPoint. Okay. So the board received a draft of the plan in its board packet. We've already been making some edits to clean that up a little bit for the final presentation that will be sent to the state tomorrow. I could tell you that we also received, superintendents also received an email from the state today, right around 5 p.m. That may have some implications on the reopening plan. So I just saw that right before this meeting. So I'll have to go into that email later on and take a look at the attachments that's there to see if there's if the state has changed any of its guidance regarding the plan. So you know, a day before the plans are due to the state, we're still receiving information from the state, and this is likely to be ongoing as we move through the summer and head towards the opening of schools at the end of August. All right, so first let me share my screen. And then let me open up my PowerPoint. Okay, so can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so just remember, I cannot see you. So this is a summary of where the plan is at this point. And this presentation is going to hit on some of the key elements. As you know, the plan itself is about 40 pages long. So the presentation is a little bit shorter than that. All right, so as you know, we had a reopening committee, 51 people on that committee. The committee was broken up into subcommittees that then explored different aspects of reopening schools in a safe way. So we had a health and safety subcommittee, one working on curriculum instruction and assessment, scheduling and operations, sports clubs and activities, one regarding staff concerns and any contract implications, professional learning and evaluation, social emotional learning, and then a separate subcommittee for special education. So the state plan requires that districts plan for 3 different learning models. One is in-school instruction. This is for all students coming back into the school buildings to receive instruction in school. The state, however, does provide opportunity for parents to opt out of in-school instruction and to select distance learning. The second plan that districts have to work on is a hybrid model. And in that model, the students coming to school would be basically half the students would be in school and then half would be out of school. And then those students would flip-flop. And then so the group that was home would come in and the group that was in would stay home. And then the third plan would be everyone returns to distance learning. So in-school learning, again, parents may opt for distance learning. Schools would be operating at up to 100% capacity, meaning all students and staff with underlying medical conditions should consider restrictions in blended/remote learning. So that is the piece where if everybody's going to be required to be in school, we could have some staff or students that perhaps have underlying conditions that would restrict them from returning to school safely. We would run our buses up to full capacity. We do plan to provide monitors on the bus, at least for the first month of school. We are in the process of determining how the bus monitor positions would be staffed during that month. Everybody on the bus would be wearing face coverings, so masks during transit. And then the bus monitor would assist with loading and unloading of the students on the buses. Again, face coverings for students and staff while inside school buildings during in-school learning. That is a requirement from the state plan. If we have staff or students that show signs of illness, we have to identify isolation rooms and procedures for those individuals. The state recommending cohorting students where possible, putting restrictions on congregating of people in the buildings, and then to look at some sort of staggered entry or dismissal, or some ways to separate students as they enter and exit the school building in the buses, and also to take a look at how we move through the buildings during the day. We are told that we should maximize spacing of the seating to the greatest extent possible. The recommendations for that is 6 feet coming out of the Centers for Disease Control. The American Academy of Pediatrics has also weighed in on spacing, and they've generated a report that said in some cases 3 feet would be a minimum. And then we've also learned that for certain types of activities such as chorus or band, spacing greater than 6 feet, up to 12 feet would be preferable. So we're working on those spacing issues at each of our schools. During in-school learning, since we're trying to open as normal as possible, we do plan to have sports clubs and other activities in operation, but practicing, good social distancing, wearing masks, etc. And then we would have increased cleaning and sanitization during in-school instruction. So for the elementary school, some particulars I will go through for each of the schools. So at Lebanon Elementary School, we've been able to provide distancing of 6 feet for the students in the classrooms. During transit in the hallways, the students are going to be keeping to the right side of the hallways, and then the students would be 6 feet apart, right? And so each of the schools will be displaying signage that's going to facilitate this, but we'll also have markings on the floor to remind everybody, what 6 feet looks like as they move through the hallways. Again, all the students and staff will be wearing masks. At the elementary school, we're planning on providing at least 2 mask breaks per day. For cohorting of the students, and again, the cohorting is so that students do not commingle as much as they normally would. So we're trying to keep the kids together in smaller groups. So each class will be a cohort. This means that when they travel, first, we're going to limit travel of the students in cohorts. We're going to bring specials and support teachers into the classroom as much as possible. But when they do have to travel, we'll try to have each cohort alone in the hallway to limit contact. We'll also have students eating meals, breakfast and lunch in their classrooms. For transportation, we're not going to be able to match in-school cohorting with transportation. So if we open school in the fall and we are in school learning, buses can be up to full capacity. So we're going to run normal bus runs in this model. Again, we plan on having monitors on the bus, at least for the first month of school, to get the kids attentive to social distancing, mask wearing, etc. And then at the elementary school, the bus loop is still the safest way to unload our school buses. But as multiple buses may appear at the bus loop at the same time, only one bus will empty at a time for the students to go into the school. And we still do plan on having recess for our elementary students. And we still, at this time, plan to allow the students to use the playscape. If we do use the playscape, playscapes are supposed to be cleaned in between students at recess. If that proves to be some sort of difficulty that we are unable to solve, then we may have to limit or eliminate the use of the playscape. I have seen in other school plans that that's already a decision that some school districts have made. But we're going to try to go ahead and do it. Early on in this process, a recommendation was to buy these sanitizing fogging machines. And so we actually went out and ordered one for each school. We took delivery of one of these machines at the high school. And then after we took delivery, the recommendation came down that we should not be using fogging machines. So we ended up canceling the orders for the other two schools. But we're thinking that we might be able to use that fogging machine as a way to sanitize the outdoor playscape equipment. And so Kevin is checking on that. And if that's something that we're going to be able to do, we think we could still allow the kids to use the playscape equipment at the elementary school. At the middle school, social distancing, the rooms are such that we are not going to be able to get 6 feet in between them. So we are able to get 4 feet, which still falls within the range of 3 to 6 feet. Students will again keep to the right in the hallways, and they will be 6 feet apart. Again, there will be signs and markings. Again, everybody's going to be in masks, unless there is a medical reason why they can't wear masks. And then we will have face shields. Same thing for the elementary. At the middle school, in order to eliminate kids congregating in the hallways, and the mingling of students, we are not going to be using lockers. So we will make adjustments regarding backpacks, etc., and what's going to be required for kids to have in the classroom. So it would limit their need to be using lockers. We will do some cohorting at the middle school. So grades 5 and 6 will be cohorted. Similar to the elementary school, the kids will stay in their classrooms as much as possible. Teachers will travel to the kids rather than the kids passing between classes. Grades 7 and 8, more difficult to cohort because kids start to take different levels of math course during those grades. They also are involved in different world language. So the cohorting is a little bit problematic for our 7th and 8th graders. Similar to the elementary school, we will have breakfast and lunch in the classrooms, not in the cafeteria. For transportation, again, buses to full capacity, right? This is hopefully as normal as possible at the beginning of the school year. The monitor, again, for at least the first month of school, everybody with a mask. And, you know, we'll have masks available on the bus if a child shows up to the bus without a mask. So everybody will have the mask. Students, when they arrive to the school, the middle school plans to empty the buses by grade level. And then each of the students in the grade levels, so each grade level will be assigned a different door to enter and exit the school. So 5th graders will have its own door, 6th, 7th, and 8th, right? And similar to the elementary school, we do plan on continuing with recess for our 5th graders. There's no playscape or that type of concern at the middle school. And then for the high school, again, we're able to get to 4 feet apart at the high school for social distancing. Again, the students will be kept to the right side of each hallway as they travel. The high school is able to mark some stairwells as one way. So there will be up and down stairwells to limit student contact in the stairwells. Again, everybody's going to be using masks. We will not be using the lockers at the high school, similar to the middle school. High school already has a block schedule, so it has an 8-period day, but then drops 2 and blocks the other classes. During this time, the high school will be moving to a 4-period block schedule to limit passing time of the students. So cohorting pretty much is impossible at the high school level because the kids don't travel in groups from one class to the next. They're in all the different classes that they've signed up for. Transportation, again, very similar to the other schools. Buses can be up to full capacity, monitor, masks. The students at the high school that get off the bus will enter through the main entrance, but students who drive to the high school or are dropped off in the parking lot, there's a side door over on that side of the building, and they will enter through that side door. All right, so one last thing about while we're running in-school instruction. Generally, our buildings are open, you know, with some caveats that visitors to the buildings have to check into the office. We still have the Raptor system. But during COVID-19, we are going to be limiting access to the school buildings so that we don't have a lot of people in and out, right? To limit possible contact with somebody who may have COVID-19. We plan on having 504 meetings, PPT meetings, and other meetings still being held via Google Meet, which is the primary meeting platform that we've been using. But sometimes we're called to meetings on Zoom. If we do have meetings that are going to be held in the school, so parents who are requesting meetings or need to come in and see one of the counselors or teachers or an administrator, we're asking that they set up appointments. If they do have an appointment, you know, they're going to be reminded that, you know, were they to be symptomatic, cough, fever, etc., that they should cancel and reschedule, right? So people who have symptoms of COVID-19 would not be allowed to enter into the buildings. If there are meetings that are planned that are going to be taking place in the buildings, then there will be advance notice provided to the school office, so people will be alerted to the visitors. Visitors, like I said earlier, will come to the main office, sign in with their photo ID, which will go through the Raptor system. Everybody who comes in and out of the buildings will be wearing facial coverings. We'll have posted protocols for the appropriate hygiene, social distancing, etc. We'll have the hand sanitizer stations in our buildings. And then the other people that come into the building are deliveries, right? Each of our schools takes deliveries. Each of our kitchens takes deliveries. And so all deliveries are going to be facilitated usually by a school custodian to minimize contact with folks in the building. So at this time, I'm going to escape out of this and rejoin you guys to see if you have any questions at this point. All right, so I'm back.
Go ahead, Nicole.
Bob, does that mean that LES, there will be no parent volunteers working in the classrooms with the kids?
So we have had some preliminary conversation about that. I need to get more information regarding the role of those volunteers and whether or not it's something that we might be able to forego during this time, because the volunteers, and sometimes volunteers are the school's lifeblood, right? They are a big assistance to us. But that's just going to be another level of people that we're going to have to screen, et cetera. So there's going to be a little bit more conversation on that. So I can't see everybody, so I don't know if there's anybody else that has questions right now.
Anybody else have a question for Bob? No, looks like.
Okay, so I'm going to jump back into the PowerPoint. So I'm going to go back to presentation mode. Okay, so for hybrid learning, again, so schools will move into hybrid learning based upon whatever the conditions are regarding COVID-19 transmission in Lebanon or any of our surrounding communities, right? So not all of our students live in Lebanon, and so we really need to be attuned to what's happening in town, but also our neighboring communities. I will be in consultation with Uncas Health District, which is our local health district. So that moving into a hybrid learning situation is likely to be a local decision based on local conditions. And so if conditions are such where there is a moderate spread of COVID-19 in the community or surrounding communities that could impact the schools, we would reduce school capacity by 50%. And we would go into blended, some students in school, some students distance learning from home, and then we would flip-flop. So we did survey parents about a couple of different models, and the parents did support one model over another, and so I do have a sample of that. So just like schools would be operating on a reduced capacity, our buses would be also at a reduced capacity. We would maintain the monitor, facial coverings, etc. and controlled loading and unloading of the riders. There would be more spacing now in between students on the bus that are unrelated. So we wouldn't have to space kids that live together, but we would have to space them on the bus away from students that they don't live with. The model that I have in the draft reopening plan shows one student in a row, and then the kids kind of zigzag through the bus in a hybrid busing situation. That is based upon the recommendation that districts received for summer school transportation. And so we are feeling that that will continue to be the recommendation if we were to go into a hybrid model. Face coverings, again, for students and staff while they're in the buildings. Again, identification of students and staff who may be feeling ill. Cohorting of students into two groups now, right? So there would be the school-based cohorting, but then students across the district would be grouped into Group A or Group B students. We would be doing this primarily on an alphabet basis. So Jacques actually split the kids using the alphabet, and I think our alphabet split is A to K, and for one group, and then the rest of the alphabet for the rest of the kids. And then we would work with parents, right? We do have kids in families that may have different last names. When we surveyed the parents, we actually got one parent that said it would be helpful in their family if their kids were actually in different cohorts. So that we would have to, we try to work with families as best as possible. In the end, though, we need to have as close to a 50-50 split as we can, reasonably get to. Again, we'd have some kind of a staggering entry or dismissal, so either through different doors or different times, and transit in the hallways. We'd maximize seating. So we're thinking if we have half the kids in and half the kids out, we might actually be up to 6 feet in all three of our buildings. But it really depends upon, how the kids are scheduled into the classes. But we do think that we could probably get to 6 feet in each of the schools. Sports clubs and activities, we're not really sure what will happen in the hybrid model. We might lose control of some of that. The CIAC could step in and cancel sports. We might decide that if it's unsafe to have all of our students in the classroom, well, then it might also be unsafe to have them, on an athletic field together. If that were to happen during the winter and we had a sport like wrestling where kids are in intimate contact with each other, those kinds of things are considerations for the school district when it decides on whether or not to close, participation off for club sports and activities. Certain activities we might still be able to do through a distance learning type thing. As you know, during the springtime, we still had music groups providing performances, etc. So we still might be able to have some activities. We would take them on a case-by-case basis. And again, since some of our folks will still be in the buildings, we would have increased cleaning and sanitization in the schools. A hybrid alternating schedule. This is the model that most of the parents indicated would work best for their families. So we would do 2 days with cohort A in school, and cohort B would be out of school. So Monday, Tuesday, cohort A in, cohort B distance learning. On Wednesday, everybody would be distance learning, and we would be cleaning and sanitizing the schools, getting them ready for the next cohort. So then Thursday and Friday, cohort A would be distance learning, and we would bring cohort B into school for Tuesday and then Friday. And then we would clean the schools and have them ready for Monday when the cycle repeats itself. All right, so that's hybrid. So I will come back to you to see if there's any questions. All right, so I'm back.
Hey, Nicole.
I always have questions. Okay. So looking at the hybrid model and probably the all-day model where the kids are in school 5 days a week, when you say cleaning and sanitizing the school, are you going to have the custodians wiping down every single desk every single day?
So some of that cleaning is actually going to have to occur during the day, right? And so, you know, we'd have to hire a custodian for every single classroom. If that was the sole responsibility of the custodians, that's really going to end up being a shared responsibility. So the custodians will be involved in maintaining, you know, wiping doorknobs if we cannot have doors open, wiping surfaces in common areas of the buildings. In the classrooms, they will certainly be doing deep cleaning in every day after school. But during the day, you know, depending upon the age of the kid, you know, we think that some of the students would also share some of that responsibility. Our older students that are eating in the classrooms, you know, we have them assist with cleaning tables in the cafeteria. It would still be appropriate to have them assist with cleaning desks in the classroom, right? And so we're thinking that students could assist with this, and then you know, classroom teachers are also going to have a little bit added responsibility for some of the surface cleaning also.
Yeah, because at LES and the cohorts in the middle school, 5th and 6th grade, they're just having one classroom all day long. So that would be easy for them to clean their desk. They're the only ones using it. I think I'm more concerned with the high school and 7th and 8th grade because there are multiple kids using those desks. And as you know, as all teachers know, like they get pretty germy because kids are kind of gross. So I was just wondering how that.
So I think we all are sometimes a little bit gross, not just the kids, right? So I do understand that. It will be somewhat alleviated at the high school because they're only going to have 4 periods a day, right? So somewhat alleviated there. The decision has not yet been made to go to a block schedule for 7th and 8th graders, but that is a question that's been raised a couple of times. So we will take a look at that. And if that becomes the decision, you know, we would certainly let everybody know. But again, that would also eliminate the need to wipe the desks, et cetera, as many times, right? So because there would be less classes moving in and out of those classrooms.
Any other questions for Bob on the hybrid model?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Dawn.
I have a couple of questions. So I apologize for having to join late. I have questions per page in the document that was sent to us. So if any of this is addressed at a later point in the PowerPoint, then please just let me know. I want to follow up on Nicole's questions. Can you specifically at LES, and then yeah, I'm looking at the cohorts. So LES and then 5 and 6. Can you tell me what the day of a custodian's life will look like?
So that's a great question, right? So right now we staff the schools with just 1 day custodian, right? That we know right off the bat is inadequate. So I have been working with Kevin on what we think would be the appropriate staffing levels for each of the schools. And it's definitely going to be at least 2 and perhaps 3 custodians during the day shift. So we would be looking at some temporary hires, either bringing on our subs. So we have several people that are on the call list for custodial substituting. So we may need to bring them on during COVID-19 while we're in school. And, worst case scenario, we have these temporary employees for the whole year in terms of a budgetary impact. We're hoping that we won't transition to a hybrid model or transition back out to a distance learning for all of our students. So we're hoping that we're going to be able to keep everybody in school. So we would definitely need more custodians on the day shift. And then the work that they would be doing, they would be moving throughout the building, cleaning lavatories twice a day, cleaning, wiping down commonly touched surfaces within the school. That's something that they had been doing during the spring, even after we went to distance learning, because we still had staff in and out of the school. So we had the custodians start that in the spring. So they'll be wiping down those common areas. At the elementary school, we're going to have to take care of the playscape. So we'll be cleaning in the playscape in between recess. And then they're going to be doing things that they always do, sweeping up messes. If somebody gets sick, they facilitate cleaning that up, et cetera. So really, it's just going to be more of what they normally do in terms of cleaning, and it's going to require more people on hand to do it.
Okay, and so a couple of follow-up questions. In the document, it said that most likely custodial staff would be used to help deliver lunches. Do we think that's actually the best use of their time in terms of when they're needing to clean the playscape, clean the bathrooms twice a day, and after, are we actually going to use our custodial staff to deliver lunches?
So that is still something that could be a work in progress. We may find that our custodians may not be available to do that, right? And that could become an all hands on deck kind of a situation. So as you need more people to do the work, the more people you bring into the building, the greater concern might be that now you have more people that you have to screen for COVID on a daily basis, right? And so the whole idea is to limit contact. So we would, be working with the current staffing to get that done. And so right now the custodians would be the ones that would be the most readily available to do that. But we would also have to look at what other staff members may be available to assist with that.
Okay. The plan does not reflect that. At this point, it reflects the custodians. And I'm worried that specifically at LES, because it states that the playgrounds will be cleaned when, I forget the specific language, but essentially when the custodians are available. So if the custodians are delivering lunches, then that means they wouldn't be available to clean the playscape, which then would mean the children would not have the ability to play on the playscape. So I'm hoping that that can be an update on the document as well.
So yeah, so we put in the plan the things that we are planning on being able to do. If we find that we're not able to do it, then we would have to adjust the plans.
Mm. And then the custodians and teachers are getting extra training in terms of disinfecting, correct?
Yeah, we will provide that for everybody in the school.
Okay, and so what you said in response to Nicole's question was that you'd depending on the age would be depending on students to help clean. So is it safe for our students, specifically at LES, to be handling such disinfectants? And two, at all ages, will they be provided with training on how to use these disinfectants?
Yeah, so when I talked about the kids, I did say that, it would depend on who the kids are. So it may not be appropriate for some of our kids to be able to do that kind of cleaning, depending upon age and capabilities, et cetera. And so if we were to have kids, like wiping down their desks after they eat lunch,
Before and after at LES,
we would show them how to do that.
Okay, I have one more question, and it's about buses. So,
Yeah, go ahead.
Sarah, is that all right? You're on mute. No, you're not.
Sorry about that. You missed it, but I am working on my daughter's Chromebook today. Yes. So let's ask the bus question, and then let's move on to the online learning.
Okay.
Option.
So the bus question is more related to the hybrid approach, and so two questions: reduced capacity. Do we know that reduced capacity is possible on all of our routes? Do we know how many students are on the buses, and is that capable? And two, everywhere it says the bus monitor would be for the first month of the school. However, if we went to hybrid model in October, there would no longer be a bus monitor. So how would the bus drivers be supported in teaching the students about that distancing and mask wearing and such?
Yeah. So the bus monitors, you're right. We would only have them there in September. If we ended up having to switch to a hybrid model and we needed the monitors to support that transition, I guess we would bring them back. The way we're trying to do that right now is we're seeing if there are instructional assistants that are able to ride the buses and provide that kind of service. And so if we have enough IAs that are able to do that during September, and then we end up going to hybrid in November, and we find that we need that support, we would re-solicit IAs to see if they're available to do that. The whole transition from one part model of the plan to the next, each of those transitions, if we have to make them, does create some unknowns that we don't know how that will play out yet. And if you ask anybody, the hybrid model by itself creates a large amount of uncertainty for families and staff with half of the people in the school and half out. It's every superintendent's nightmare, and I think it's a lot of educators' nightmares for teachers, for admin. Just think about being a teacher, and some of your kids are learning from their homes, and some of them are sitting right in front of you all at the same time. The hybrid model is a bit concerning, and we've let the state know that. I'm sorry, I forget the first part of your question, Dawn, about the bus.
If we know that reduced capacity is even.
Oh, yeah. So we will be re-surveying parents when we send a draft out, and we will ask the parents now that we've submitted our plan to the state, and this is what the plan looks like at this point in time. Again, the plan could always change depending upon any new rules or restrictions that come out of the state. We will re-survey the parents and say, okay, this is the plan. will you be sending your child to school? If you do send your child to school, will your child be riding the bus? And so those questions that we asked earlier on, we will ask them a little more pointedly this time. And we will also develop a form for parents who decide that they will have their children participate via distance learning. Okay, and again, we will work to accommodate parents when they make these requests. The hybrid model, you may have seen in the plan that we put in there that the hybrid model is not a choice, right? So when we go back to school and we are in school, parents can't say, well, I would like my student to participate on the hybrid model. So that's not the choice. It's either in school or distance learning. It's either the hybrid model or distance learning, right? Those are the choices. And then if we go to distance learning, everybody does it.
Okay, thank
I
you.
have a quick question.
Go ahead, Danelle.
Going along with the hybrid model, I think you kind of answered a little bit. When you're taking kids out by alphabetical A through K, you said, and then L through Z,
Yes.
that potentially could have, the way I understand it, it's not just they're grouped by last name to begin with in their cohorts. They're intermingled between classes. So the problem I can see with that is potentially you could have 3/16 of a class in one classroom, like 3 of the students are there and the other 13 are at home. And in another class, you could potentially have 14 students that are there and the other 2 are at home. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
You
And
could pulled out by last name.
that's exactly right. To try to split the kids district wide so that we could keep siblings together, and then try to do that based upon how each individual kid is scheduled within their schools. It just is a logistical impossibility. So sometimes you have to take the expedient route, even though it may, through this whole process, we've been talking about you solve one problem, you create 2 more. And so we're hoping that the alphabet piece is definitely not going to be perfect, but hopefully it won't be as bad as 3/16 and 13/16. Hopefully it won't be that bad. We will likely have some kids in distance learning already. And so that may also alleviate some of the concerns.
Thanks.
Thank you. Move on?
Yep.
All right, I'm going to share again. Oh, just went too far. All right, so distance learning. This means that the transmission of COVID-19 in the community and in the surrounding areas has reached a level where either the state has closed schools down again, or if they've left that decision up to local control, that through consultation with Uncas Health and perhaps the Connecticut Department of Public Health, a decision is that it's unsafe to run schools either in-school or hybrid, and so we have to move to distance learning. And so the schools will be closed. All the students will be doing remote learning, so distance learning from home. During the spring, we told staff, district staff, you should stay home and teach from your houses or whatever. And then we found out that a large number of people still wanted to come in. So we didn't mandate that they be in school, but when they asked to come into the school, we said yes, because the governor's executive order never pertained to public entities, right? The executive orders were for private entities. And so, throughout the closed schools all spring, several of the administrators continue to report to the school. All of our custodians and maintenance continued to report to the schools. I reported throughout the entire thing to my office. And then we would have teachers in and out, either to get supplies or teach a lesson from their classroom or join a meeting, either a staff meeting or something from a computer in the schools. And so because the need was there for our people to continue to come into the schools, we're going to leave that as an option for our staff. So if it's easier for teachers to teach from their classrooms, I'm going to go ahead and let that happen, unless an executive order comes out that tells us that even school employees cannot be in the schools. We won't have any need for transportation during distance learning. Extracurricular activities, including sports, would be suspended. But as I said earlier, when we talked about the hybrid model, last spring, we still had some folks, the music folks in particular. The art did a remote distance learning art show. So we're thinking that some of these things may still be able to happen. And then we would announce that, kind of on a as case by case basis. In the plan, we put that they would be suspended because I suspect, we would not be having sports, but a number of other activities may not be able to happen through a distance learning type platform. In the springtime, the research is not to have kids spend too much time on their screens. So if we were going to go to 100% distance learning, we would move to a abbreviated contact time with teachers and students. We would, instead of working on the early release schedule, we are hoping that we will be better able to accommodate families and in particular students with a later start. So the teachers would still have their normal hours, but the contact time with the kids' classes would start on a 2-hour delay. We still do have a little bit of a conversation going on regarding the elementary schedule. It may be helpful for parents if we had all the kids distance learning all at the same time, which would mean that we would have to start the elementary kids earlier. This is something that the elementary staff would be willing to do, start their day earlier. So the elementary teachers, because their classes start later than the high school and the middle school, they don't report to school until later. And then they stay later in the afternoon. But they have voiced their willingness, if we need to adjust the elementary schedule, that they would be willing to do that. This is likely to become a question that we'll ask parents if that would be helpful. Otherwise, right now we have the 2-hour delay schedule. We would have to work on the AM, PM pre-K, because usually when we have the 2-hour delay, sometimes we lose that AM pre-K, but we wouldn't be doing that during distance learning. So we'd have to work out that schedule. All right, so those are the 3 models. So I could exit this again and come back to see if there's questions about the distance learning, and then we'll talk about health issues, facility issues, et cetera. Okay, I'm back.
Go ahead, Danelle.
So if we did distance learning only, it says buses would be suspended. Obviously, they're not driving kids around. How does that affect our contract with the bus company if the drivers aren't doing anything?
So in the spring, we had the same thing happen, right? And so we negotiated with the bus company on what would happen. So we ended up having a little over $200,000 from the bus company. We received some of that as a refund. So we pay our bus contract at the beginning of the school year to receive a discount on the cost of transportation. So we received a refund that will become part of the Board of Ed surplus for this year. And then we received a rebate towards the busing contract for now the 2021 school year. So if we were to go to distance learning, we would, again, depending upon how long we were out and how many of the bus runs we didn't run, not only just day-to-day transportation, but any special education transportation that we no longer have to provide, transportation for field trips that might have been scheduled, transportation for athletic events that might have been scheduled, et cetera. We have to take a look at all of that.
Any other questions on the distance learning model that was presented? Bob, I think it's important to also mention that, this is a draft. This is what we're planning on sending to the state. It's not the end all be all of what's going to happen. There are still so many unknowns and uncertainties in our world right now. So I think it's just important for us to have that in our mind as we move forward, and trust that you will, if whatever you need from us at the time, you will come to us and ask. And that was going to be one of my questions at the end. And I don't know if you've thought about this, but if there is anything that you need from the Board of Ed as far as, financial decisions, policy decisions, communications decisions, then I'd hope that you would let us know.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the understanding that this is definitely not something chiseled in stone, right? This is going to be a working process. As we implement, we may find some things are not working the way we anticipated. It looked great on paper, and then in application, maybe not so great. And so we will be tweaking and adjusting, I think, on a regular basis, all the way through, until there is some normalcy again.
Right. In particular, this distance learning model, in my opinion, at some point this next school year, we will have to go into distance learning, whether it be the beginning, the middle, I don't know. But it's, that's probably a strong focus area for curriculum, right? And how to sort of beef that up. So I look forward to the conversations that we're going to continue to have as a reopening committee.
Absolutely. Yeah. This whole process is going to be a little bit about managing, real things. If we have any real science that we can rely on regarding COVID-19 versus, people's fears about becoming potentially sick with something that could have lifelong impact or even life-ending impact for loved ones. And so it's a scary time for people, and we have to balance that and work with that. All right, I'm going to jump back into the presentation. All right, where am I? Okay, so our health and safety committee was chaired by our school nurses, and they really did a wonderful job researching and keeping up to date on all the new things coming out of the CDC, coming out of the State Department of Public Health, et cetera. They've really stayed on top of things. Holly Parker, who is our middle school nurse, will be our health and safety liaison for folks that have questions about COVID-19 and the impacts on schools, etc. I will be the contact for the plan itself. So, but anyway, our nurses and that committee have been doing fantastic work. There's also going to be some of the training on PPE and cleaning, etc. We have members from that committee that are going to be putting together videos on how to do those things from our local EMS service. Betsy Petrie and Sandy Belisle have also volunteered to be resources for us in that effort. So it's not just folks in the district, it is our townsfolk too that have been very helpful and supportive. So daily symptom checklist. Right now from the CDC, they're saying if you have any one of these things, people should be staying home. In particular, the fever is one of the primary concerns. Ironically, however, using the thermometers to check students and staff as they get on buses or enter the school building is not a recommendation. Concerns have been raised regarding the calibration of the no-touch thermometers, and checking temperatures has been found to be a way to actually create congestion at entry points into the buildings, which is counterproductive in terms of mitigating COVID-19 spread. So we will not be using thermometers at entry points into the building. However, our school nurses will be using thermometers when they have to do individual health evaluations. And then,
Bob, can I ask a question real quick? Sorry.
Yeah.
How like for instance, I'm going to have extreme fatigue and a headache every day just because there's so much stress involved. I mean, am I going to get sent home every day?
So we are, I have put the question out to Uncas Health District to see if it's just any one of those, or do we actually need more than one to send somebody home. If we were to strictly go by CDC, we're being told that it's any one of these things. Could be something that we would send a staff or a student home for. Just like you said, Nicole, on a stressful day, anybody would be exhausted. Teaching is exhausting, even on a great day, because teachers are performing and working with kids all day long. That's a tiring process. And then if you add stress, et cetera, there's going to be some headaches and et cetera. So we are seeking clarification on that. And if there is change, we will inform everybody of that and update the plan.
Dawn, did you want to ask your question?
My question is in relation to what Nicole just asked. If kids are sent home and based on that schedule of like when they could come back, what is our responsibility as a district to continue their education while they are at home?
Yeah, so those students that are sent home just to be monitored, we're assuming that their health is not severely impacted and they might be able to participate in the distance learning while they are home. Of course, if they're sick, their health comes first. And so if they're not able to participate in distance learning, then, they would be just sick. And then we'd work to help catch them back up when their health is better.
Thank you.
We wouldn't want to just abandon the education of a child because we had to send them home because they have symptoms, and perhaps they're not necessarily sick with COVID-19 or something that would limit their ability to participate from home. So that does then bring us to how do we know when people could come back, either children or adults. So if a person can answer the 3 questions with an yes, then they could come back. And so the first question, has it been at least 10 days since the start of the first symptom? So a student is sent home, or a staff member is sent home, and they've been away for 10 days. If they answer yes, then that's one question. If they answer no, then they still stay. They stay away. The second question, has it been at least 24 hours since the person had a fever, right? And so that's common right now. When we send children home, or a staff member says, you know, I'm not feeling well, I have a fever, I got to go home, they stay away for a day. And so that's still going to be the process. So as long as the fever has broken for at least 24 hours and they answer yes, and they've answered yes to the previous question, they're 2/3 of their way to coming back. The third question is, has it been at least 24 hours since the symptoms have improved, including the cough and shortness of breath? Oh, and I see a typo there. So I'll have to look to see if that's in the plan. All right, writing a note. So if they answer yes, right, so it's been 24 hours, their symptoms are improved, including the cough and shortness of breath. So now that's 3 yeses, they could come back. There are also some alternative ways that people can come back. If they've had 2 negative COVID-19 tests, at least 24 hours apart, and no symptoms, they could come back. If a person can also return to school following normal school policy. So we send them home because they have a symptom. They go to a doctor and they are confirmed to have something else that is causing those COVID-19-like symptoms. And the doctor says that it's okay for them to come back to school, then they can come back to school. Right, so that's how folks can come back to school. These guidances from the CDC or Department of Public Health or even the local health department have been changing a little bit over time. So we just recently got an update that got sent to us from the state. So I kicked it out to our 3 nurses, and then they updated the plan. So again, as these things change, we will inform folks and put it into the plan. So that's stuff on the sickness. Do people have questions and want me to come back to the meeting, or should I move on?
I see Danelle has her hand up.
Yeah, just to clarify, in the actual document on page 23, it says 24 days, not 24 hours.
Yeah, that was a typo when we made the change from the number of days to the hours. We changed the number, but not the unit of measurement. So we've caught that and updated it. So that was the recent change that we just got from CDC through the state.
I think that was it for questions, unless anybody had one. No.
Okay, thank you. So a big part of bringing people back into the schools, of course, is making sure that our school facilities are ready for the return. A big component of that, because COVID-19 is airborne, is making sure that the ventilation systems are operational in our schools. So we have it in our plan that all our ventilation systems will be operating at full capacity 1 week prior to the reopening of schools. So Kevin has been working with our vendors. We do have a contracting with MCOR for some of this work. So they've been in to evaluate our air handling units, and they will be updating our filters on all the air handling units to the MERV 13 filter. These filters have fine mesh on them that filter out particles that are at the virus size level. So these are the filters that will take COVID-19 out of the air. So those will all be installed on our air handling units. We do have exhaust fans also in the buildings. We are having them inspected, and they will be either repaired or replaced if they're found not to be operating at full capacity. The second bullet there, airflow is flushed for 2 hours prior to a building occupancy. That's because most public buildings, when there is nobody in the building, you shut down the ventilation system. So this bullet just tells us, that we need to make sure that the ventilating systems are operational prior to the start of each school day, so that we know that we have refreshed air in our buildings. We will continue to run the ventilation system during operating hours for our schools. We will continue to have our routine and maintenance performed on our ventilating system, which means that, the filters will be replaced as needed, etc. We do have some areas in our schools where the ventilation system may not be sufficient. It may not even be present, right? We have old buildings that were built prior to certain codes being put into place. So the room that we're going to be using at the elementary school as an isolation room is in the 66 wing. The Board of Ed has been, hearing for a number of years about the ventilation system in the 66 wing. We have exhaust fans there, but we don't have any air handlers handling that part of the building. So we will put a portable filtering device in that isolation room. 2 rooms at the middle school will also receive a portable filtering system. That's the nurse's office and the staff room. And then our maintenance shop, which is really a garage, does not have proper ventilation, so we'd have to put one there as well. And so we will, Kevin is working with the vendor on getting those in place. And again, the MERV 13 filters for all our air handling units. All right, also for school facilities, restrooms, use of restrooms are a concern, for a variety of reasons. One, COVID-19 is something like that shows up in human waste. And so there are concerns there. So we will be monitoring student use of the restrooms. So there will be some sort of sign in, sign out type of procedure at each of the schools. Each of the principals will be working on what is most appropriate on that type of tracking based upon the age and of the students that they have in their buildings. Each of our bathrooms already have this, but we'll make sure they're all in good operating order. So the no touch paper towel dispenser. So this doesn't mean that they're the electric ones per se, but they're ones that you don't have to manipulate a lever to release the paper towel. The paper towel hangs freely from the bottom of the dispenser, and people just need to pull on the towel to get the towel out. We will leave doors open where possible. Some of our bathrooms do have like a courtesy panel. So if the exterior door were to be left open, people still have privacy within the rooms. But there may be some of our lavatories may not necessarily have that. So where we can leave doors open, we will. We will also limit sink, stall, and I guess I could have put urinal use. So if there's not appropriate spacing within the bathroom, some of the facility may be marked so that it is out of use during the school day. And again, restrooms in all of our schools will be cleaned twice during the day, and then they all get cleaned again at the end of the day. Some general things about the school facilities, right? There's going to be increased surface cleaning, as was discussed earlier. Commonly touched surfaces will be cleaned. We've provided wipes at the copy machine so that staff members that are using the copy machine, there are wipes there. So we're making this as easy as possible for folks. We'll have cleaning supplies in each of the rooms. As Dawn noted earlier, this may not be appropriate for some of our youngest students, certainly in their homes, right? The parents safeguard their children from some cleaning chemicals, and we will be doing the same. If it's unsafe for those things to be in certain classrooms, then they won't be in there. We will have PPE, right? Personal protective equipment available for students and staff. We'll have masks and gloves in all classrooms. We're going to have the masks available on the buses. But we're also going to have face shields, gowns, goggles for situations where those types of extra precautions might be needed. Certainly, we're thinking the nursing offices will need that. We may need those for the isolation rooms. And then sometimes, we do have students who's have certain behavioral manifestations, and it might be advisable to have some of those extra PPEs available for staff that work with those students. Another thing that we're looking at is making sure that if we have trash cans out, they don't have lids, right? Limits the touching of surfaces on a continual basis. So those are some of the pieces regarding the school facilities. Oh, and then we hit the thank you and questions and answers. So I will jump back out of this and come back to you. All right. So I don't know if there's any additional questions, either regarding the pieces from the presentation or anything from the plan that may not have been a part of the presentation.
Okay, so we'll take some questions, but keeping in mind that it's a work in progress, and I have one, but I'm going to wait until the end. Who has a question? Nicole?
So this is with minor, what things you're going to fix. This is the plan you're sending to the state, correct, Bob?
So it will be one that has been edited throughout the day to catch typos, etc. But the one that you have in your plan is basically the one that's going to be sent.
Okay, so so you're going to send the 3 different models, and then at some point we're going to decide which model we're going to go with?
So as long as we remain a low risk community, then we will open with in-school instruction, right? So that is what is the recommendation from the state. And so I think there's also a lot of local support for in-school instruction as well, right? And so that's the one we're going to go with. If things change for us, either as a state and the governor intervenes on behalf of the entire state, then obviously we're going to have to do whatever the governor says. But if he leaves it to local discretion, then I'm going to be working with Uncas Health. Also, the town, the first selectman has been arranging for emergency planning meetings since COVID-19 got underway in the springtime, and we've been meeting either weekly or bi-weekly more recently with the town. So Uncas Health is on that, the selectmen are on that, local law enforcement is on that meeting sometimes, various town agencies are on that. Sarah and I go to that meeting. And so, part of the conversation about, moving from one level to the next could be impacted by information that I'm learning at those meetings as well.
Any other questions for Bob? No? Okay. Oh, Danelle, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question about athletics. If we were to we're opening fully, but some people are going to choose to remain at home for distance learning. Are those students going to be allowed to participate in sports if they chose to do so?
We are going to allow them to participate. Distance learning is going to be one of our instructional models. Those kids are going to be enrolled in our schools, and so they will have full access.
Great. My question, Bob, is this. I would like to know when the community will know of this plan. Are you planning on doing a webinar for the community, or something to talk them through? I know that they had the option to watch tonight, but maybe something that's advertised to to all the families, or do you have a plan for that?
So I have been thinking about doing this same presentation again, but inviting families to it. I'm definitely going to be getting a copy of the plan posted to our website. I will also be sending it out through the Thrill Share, and then we'll be so we're going to send our plan to the state tomorrow. There's no reason to not send it out tomorrow. So I will be doing that. I don't anticipate a follow-up survey going out tomorrow, but maybe at some point next week, sending out the follow-up survey. We also need to do a follow-up survey with, all the district employees as well.
Okay, great. All right. Looks like there are no more questions. I'll ask one more time because I can't see everybody. Are there any other questions? Nope. All right. Do I have a motion on the floor?
Motion to approve the plan as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Nicole, seconded by John. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, and I might need you to say something so I can see you because I don't see Maureen or Matt or Dawn right now. Okay.
Matt, I'm going to vote positive.
Thank you, Matt.
I can talk. I can say yes.
Thank you, Mo. I see Danelle, Alexis, John, Nicole, Dawn.
I'll vote in favor.
Thank you. That passes unanimously.
All right. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
And thank you, Bob. And a public thank you. I know I say it all the time, but another public thank you to the 50 members of the Reentry Committee. Working so hard to get this done. It's not a small task, and we all appreciate it. So thank you so much. All right, item number 2 on the agenda is discussion and action potentially on proposed schedule changes. Bob,
Yeah.
you want to give a little history?
I will. So we are asking the board to make some changes to the school calendar. So the State Board of Education has shortened the school year for students from 180 days to 177 days. And they've said that districts wanting to do this can use 3 days at the beginning of the year to do some of the professional development, the planning, et cetera, that districts may need to do with their teachers and administrators, et cetera, at the beginning of the year to ensure that they're ready to have a safe opening of school. And so so one calendar change that we're asking for is to move the start date of school from August 26th to August 31st. And we would utilize the 26th, 27th, and 28th, along with the 2 days that were already there for staff, the 24th and the 25th. We would have a full week for professional development and planning purposes. The second change that we're asking for, we have been thinking that at the beginning of the school year, because most areas within our school buildings do not have air conditioning, we anticipate there could be some transition issues around mask wearing and some other things that we may need to pull our staff together to debrief at the end of the day. So we're asking for the school day for kids to operate on an early release schedule for the first 2 weeks of school. So that would be August 31st through the Labor Day week, which would be Friday, September 11th. So it would be the first 9 days of school would operate on an early release schedule, and then we would jump in with the full day schedule on September 14th.
Any questions for Bob? Nicole?
Why August 31st, Bob? Those buildings are going to be hotter than, with no fans and no air conditioning for those kids. They're going to suffer. Why can't we push it till after Labor Day?
Well, the recommendation coming out of our committee, they did consider that, but the recommendation was not to move the start to past Labor Day, but just to abbreviate those days.
Bob, would you be, will you be open and, I guess, aware of the temperature every day, calling off school if it gets too hot, thinking about all of our students in masks in 90-degree weather inside the classrooms with no AC? Is that something that you're open to?
Yes. So that's something that occasionally we've had to do in the past. Any day that we cancel, we would just add on to the end of the school year. It'd be like a snow day, but it would be a heat day.
Alexis, did you have something?
No, I was just going to make the motion and second so we can have discussion.
Okay, go ahead.
I move to approve the 2020-2021 calendar changes as presented in our packet.
I'll second that.
Motion by Alexis, seconded by Maureen. Let's have some further discussion. Danelle, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I know with all this distance learning prep we've been doing, people have talked about, instead of having snow days, we actually just switched to distance learning days. Is that a consideration?
It is something that I would love to be able to do. And it is a question that we have been asking the state. So we have been sent a reminder that state statute does not allow for distance learning on a snow day. So even though we're doing distance learning due to COVID-19, we are being told that unless there is a statutory change in the law, that a snow day cannot be made up through distance learning. So that's one of the little ironies or inconsistencies that is being born out of this process. So we might get a change in the law out of it.
Great. Dawn, did you have a question?
I just wanted to explore the option of starting later as well. I know that at least in some of the elementary school classes, students were wearing shorts under pants in the middle of winter, taking their pants off so they had shorts on because their classrooms were so hot. And this was the middle of winter. And so now if we're talking about the end of August and into the beginning of September and looking at half days, like I would prefer talking about delaying the start of school as opposed to canceling school and then having to add it on at the end of the year.
I know that has been discussed, and the flip side of that is that maybe we'll get some in school days in August and September before the second, the second wave of the virus comes back. I mean, that's what some people are arguing with that. So I hear you. There's no way to predict, right?
And the other thing is too, we could delay to the beyond Labor Day. That used to be the traditional school schedule, and every once in a while there is a call to return to that. But school years go later into June when you do that, and we could hit the heat in June too. So there's really no knowing for sure if it's ever the right decision, based on temperature anyway.
Any other questions for Bob or comments, discussion? Nicole?
When are the teachers coming back?
So we're still going to have new teacher orientation on the 20th and 21st. And then all the staff, all the teachers would be in on the 24th.
Okay, and when you say in, are they going to have convocation like always?
So I still think we need to do something as a group to welcome everybody back to school. To be honest with you, I haven't really had the opportunity to do a lot of, usually I spend summer planning for convocation and some other things, but we've been doing this plan instead. So now that the plan will be getting submitted to the state, I'll be giving that some more thought. I don't know that I'm going to be able to bring everybody into the auditorium together, but maybe we could do a Google Meet kind of convocation. Something. I just think it's important that everybody be together in some capacity at the start of the school year. I just really think it's needed.
All right. Any further discussion? Okay, we had a motion on the floor. All those in favor of approving the changes to the school calendar for 2020, 2021, I'd raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Matt?
Yeah, I'm against it. I'm gonna have to vote no.
Okay, thank you. So I have Nicole, Danelle, Alexis, Maureen, John, Dawn, Sarah, 4, and Matt is against. Thank you. That motion passes. All right. Any abstentions? No, it couldn't be. No. Okay, good. Motion passes. All right. That is it for our meeting today. Thank you all so much for your hard work and for joining us tonight. We will adjourn at 8:36.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.